Hello, my name's David. I'm an environment artist, and today we're here in Starlink Battle for Atlas. And we have arrived at the planet Sonatus here. And this is a rather overlooked game, I think, from Ubisoft. And it was one of perhaps the first sort of mainstream games to offer spaceflight right down to the planet's surface, traversal across multiple planet surfaces, all kind of within one solar system. So quite unique little game actually, and it came out in 2018, so 8 years old, and I played it on the Switch 1, and I think it's a technical marvel for the time. It's using the Snowdrop engine, which is the same engine that Avatar Frontiers of Pandora uses, albeit an earlier iteration of that engine, but still great tech. And squeezing this onto the Switch is an amazing achievement, I think. You know, No Man's Sky have done it, of course, haven't they? They, they went the whole hog sort of route with however many billion planets and solar systems. And it's interesting to contrast that game with this one, whereas Ubisoft here opted to go for the less is more approach. One solar system, 7 planets, all handcrafted, and it's keeping it in a manageable sort of scope. So let's head down here because we're in sort of flight mode. So you might notice, actually, let's go into photo mode. We're in Starfox's R-Wing, aren't we here? Because the Switch version of this game had a kind of collaboration type thing going on where they included all the Starfox ships and characters and stuff. So it's a kind of weird sort of game that, I mean, for me personally, it's a better Starfox game than Star Fox, I always thought. Because I always thought Star Fox was fairly overrated. I mean, it was a fun sort of shooter, but it was a very on-rails affair. So I just felt that it was quite limited. Whereas this game, it lets you go wherever you want, all across these sort of wonderful landscapes. Look at that guy there. Oh, an Ursatar. Oh, hello. He's having a look at me there, isn't he? Yeah, not bad. It's weirdly reminiscent of No Man's Sky's creatures, but just looking better. You know, they don't have the kind of janky weirdness that No Man's Sky's procedural generation has, and none of this is procedural generation, as far as I'm aware. This, it's fairly handcrafted, really, because the planets are deceptively small. So I'm going to go up into. Let's fly. Let's activate the engines, and we'll go up, up, up. And just for fun, let's just fly out of the atmosphere. Come on, let's go. So you do a bit of a boost, head upwards, much the same as No Man's Sky. Very reminiscent of No Man's Sky's approach as well. You know, I think No Man's Sky and this share many similarities. But there we go. We've seamlessly gone from planet surface to space. No loading screens at all. So let's just pop back down and let's just watch the transition. So I'm going to try and get to the sort of Terminator here between night and day. So what we get the clouds kind of obscure a bit. It fades in the planet's surface. We've got, mega textures going on. You see pop in, of course. I mean, it is 8 years old on the Switch, don't forget. Although I'm playing this on the Switch 2. And as far as I'm aware, there are no specific enhancements for the Switch 2. But there we go, right down to the planet's surface. And we've got all these kind of interesting formations and flora and fauna, relatively sparse, but although nonetheless, all with their unique flavors. Well, let's have a little. There we go. You can traverse across the landscapes faster in this sort of flying mode. But I mean, check that out. Look at the draw distance while we're flying. You know, the higher you get, the more unforgiving this sort of thing is because you can see further. But check out that landscape. Great. And let's not forget that these planets are really tiny when you think about it. They don't look or feel tiny, but you know, they're probably, I don't know, I mean, I've never measured it. I don't think anyone has, but they're probably about like 20 kilometers in diameter. So they're really small. And if you look carefully, you can see the kind of, you know, the horizon line, but all that haze and atmospheric scattering and stuff obscures it really well. You know, without all of that, if we had a really crisp, long, sharp draw distance without any haze or fogging, you know, you'd really see a curved horizon line here. But, you know, it's really great use of, you know, the tech controlling what the player can see in order to sort of, you know, manipulate your perception of the environment. And so, you know, you think that they've got all these planets, but, you know, and they're handcrafted, but it's not actually that intensive to do that, really, you know, on this size. They're not massive. And, you know, I mean, when I say handcrafted, there's no procedural generation of the terrain. This is all handcrafted landscape here. There's going to be procedural drops of veg and things like that, and, you know, boulders and, you know, stuff like down there, these little rocks and stuff, and all this veg, and the placement of these big boulders, I would imagine. But the actual terrain, you know, that's been made by artists. So, having had a little glance at the planet Sonatus and its wonderful sort of glow that it's got in the atmosphere, isn't it? It's really nice. Let's go and check out the other planets into space with us. And look, you can see the planets over there. They're the actual planets that you can go to. So that's not just any trickery. Let's go through these clouds here. There we go. Clouds fade out, and in a little jiffy, we are into space. There we go. And you see all the planets there. Center of the solar system, the sun over there, looks like some sort of white dwarf, doesn't it? But planets there, we've got all there. Oh yeah, and if you hover over them, you get the names, of course. All there. There. Actually, if you include Crimson Moon, there's 8 planets. That moon has kind of got this sort of you don't really do missions on there. It's got this sort of racing thing where you can take part in races and stuff like that, you know. But before we go to Kirite, let's just have a look at the map. So here we are on Sonatus. There we go. That's Kirite, and then we'll go to Haven, Vylus, and then that's the Crimson Moon we talked about, and Tundria. And then these get a bit more difficult as we go around. Ashar, and then Necrom. All kept within a manageable scope for human artists to cope with, you know. It's a really good example of tightly controlled art direction. So, away we go. Into hyperspace. And it's a very Star Wars-y sort of exit from hyperspace. We just zap in there, don't we? So, here we are on the planet Kirite. So it looks like we're on the night side. So if we just let's just activate our hyperdrive a little wee bit, and then we can kind of travel much faster, and we can actually go around the planet. And oh, sunrise there! Look at that! Isn't that cool? So again, I like to kind of come down on the Terminator line of this planet, and you see it there, just cresting the horizon. Isn't it cool? So we'll head down just as the planet sort of comes around to dawn on Kirite. Okay. And then all you need to do is just sort of point yourself down at the surface. There we go. And look at that transition. We've got high level clouds, terrain fades in. We've got all these sort of mega textures on the landscape there. This is a very sort of deserty planet, this one. Reminds me of Arrakis. But very, very much its own flavour. Come on, Starfox, let's have a little zoom around. Whoa, let's go around there. Whee! Yeah. And, you know, really nice vibe to it. More creatures. Hello, creatures. And check out the surfaces, actually. They're really nice sand texture, that, isn't it? Really cool. And through all the planets, all of the textures, you know, they're using PBR. They're using height-based blending in parts. You know, all this is 8 years old. And, you know, I always felt, you see that lightning there? That was pretty cool. And, oh, look, these creatures are cool. These are like sandworms. You know? Proper Arrakis, isn't it? Yeah. Really nice effect there, isn't it? They've got this sort of moving effect that follows the model as it goes underneath. And oh, there we go. Its tail went. Yeah, brilliant. Really good. So, and I could pluck a scale off that and sell it. So, oh yeah, there's some of my allies there. Really cool. It's got quite a living, breathing world as well. This, you know, you help factions that are on each planet, and while you're away doing other stuff, they carry on doing their stuff. They mine a resource called Electrum that you can use to, you know, upgrade and do various things. And you know, it's all it gives the impression that stuff's happening while you're away on adventures on other planets. But yeah, it's yeah, I can't say it enough, really, I suppose. This is one of those little gems that I'd kind of forgotten about until recently. But it's just doing so many cool, interesting things, and there's very little buzz about it. You know, it just shows, you know, the evolution of Snowdrop Engine, you know, and how they were doing really great stuff with it, like way back 8 years ago, you know. I mean, look at this stuff. This is really No Man's Sky stuff, isn't it? So No Man's Sky released 2 years before this game, actually. So, you know, I guess that they looked at No Man's Sky heavily when making this, and you know, they rather smartly saw where No Man's Sky was getting it right and where it was getting it wrong. And you know, I wonder what, I don't know, you know, I'm not privy to any information about the development of it really, but it makes me wonder whether they were thinking like, yeah, let's just do the 8 planets, shall we? Yeah, let's keep it at that. Several million planets? Nah, I think we'll leave that. And it's a smart decision, I think, on Ubisoft's part. So, having had a look at this awesome planet, right, let's head up into space once more, which never gets old, does it? And the same with No Man's Sky, it never gets old taking off, going off through the atmosphere up into space in your spaceship, isn't it? It's really cool. So, let's just plan our route again. So, we're here in Kirite. Let's go to Haven. Where are we? Haven. Haven's rather nice. And I like the planet below us as well, with all its formations. I mean, I could pop into photo mode a wee bit here and check it out, you know. I mean, that's it gives the impression of a pretty big planet, doesn't it, really? I mean, it's minuscule if you're looking at the No Man's Sky's planets, you know, because that's all procedurally generated. This is all made by people, handcrafted. Everything was placed. You know, the landforms, the structures. You know, I'm not talking about procedural veg drops, stuff like that. That kind of goes without saying, you know. No one's hand placing bits of vegetation generally. Well, all that there, it's great. Right. So let's fast travel. We could travel manually. I could just do the normal sort of hyperdrive, where you just travel really fast. But it would take a few minutes, you know. But here we go. Down to planet's surface there, and looks like we're on a sort of day side of the planet. Really interesting color scheme on this one. A very unique sort of biosphere. There we go. Those high level, they're kind of like stratus clouds, aren't they? There. It's a really interesting mix. This is like, you know, contrasting colors, very visually striking. We got the red right up against the green, you know, that's always going to be a visually striking kind of color scheme, isn't it, really, that sort of thing. Right, up we go. And this, look here, right? Look at the engines here, they're breaking down. There's all this smog and stuff clogging the air. Because if we just go to the map, I'll show you the planet map here. This is a planet, I'm kind of 90% cleared it, really. Doing quite well, but still big areas I've not explored. But where we are here is, this is kind of central to the storyline, you know. Baddies are extracting stuff from planets, and that's very naughty of them. And so we destroy them, and it clears the area. But all around it is this sort of smoggy stuff, and you can't fly your ship in the smoggy stuff. So let's just go back out. Whoopsie daisy, a little bit of a crash there. This is my expert driving, as many of you noticed. Right, there we go. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Just flying underneath these canopies. Right, I want to sort of skirt the edge of that. Let's zoom on. There, you see it there, right? Maybe a bit of photo modage. And on there, where are we? Yeah. So you see it there, that big old area there of just all dense smoke, and then we've got the rest of the planet. And look, you see that. You can see curvature if you look carefully, but it's really obfuscated, isn't it, with all that haze and mist and stuff. So you never really perceive it that much. And of course, the planet's there. That's where we've just been. It really anchors the planet in the solar system, that you can see all the planets you can travel to while you're on the surface of the planet. Great. It's a really advanced feature for the time. Oh, there we go. So right, we're right on the edge of that smoke cloud there. So let's zoom down here, and we'll have a fly into clearer pastures. So all these crazy sort of weird, it's a bit fungal, isn't it? And all sort of these massive big landmark things here, the silhouettes on the hill crests. Check that out there. And then we go down to some sandy stuff, bit of water. Should we go down to the surface? There we go. And you've got some rudimentary water sort of interaction there. You can see it makes wakes as you go across. Some quite nice interaction with the foliage. It moves around. Oh, perhaps I should fire my guns. Some pretty cool weaponry. I've got like this sort of awesome thing that you can then modify with other weapons. So there's a whole thing about the weapons and stuff, like different elements, ice and impact and various things, and then they kind of they have a synergy between them all. So if I fire those, well, let's hit something, and then if I shoot it, then it turns into a fire vortex. That's what, like one of them crazy lightning globes, isn't it? Really cool. And if we go to the loadout here, you can see, I mean, there's loads of stuff. I can change the ship. We've got all sorts of ships. And I haven't got all of them, because this is one game where I think Ubisoft really did a terrible job at the sort of monetizing aspect, because on the Switch, they made a big deal of having physical toys that mirrored the spaceships that you used here. And they had all the add-ons as well, like the guns, and you could physically unclip the wings, clip another one on, and it would then register in game that you sort of had this different ship, and you bought them all separately. So I think you could have spent like several £100 on this game if you'd have wanted to. And I thought it was a real cheap, nasty trick to extract more money from you. I think Ubisoft it was a bad job, that. But I waited, and I never bought any physical stuff. You didn't actually have to buy the physical stuff in Ubisoft's defense, but you did have to buy all the DLC to get all of the characters, and I've still not got them all, as you saw before. I'm missing a couple of ships, I think, and characters. But I mean, once you've got a reasonable selection, you don't need them all, really. And I never bothered with the physical ships. Yeah, I ain't getting suckered into that sort of nonsense, It's just rubbish. So we've had a nice look at this planet here. Let's jet off. Yeah. That. There we go. All that haze just obfuscating all the smoke and mirrors that the game's doing to kind of get away with this, seamless transition planet to space. No loading screens at all in this game. No cutscenes. It's really impressive from that point of view. So we've done those three. Let's head over to Vylus. Go. Thank you. Right. We go. There we are. And check that out. I mean, even the clouds have got their own character, haven't they, here? It's like there's sort of high altitude jet streams that are sort of scouring across the upper atmosphere, creating all those cool clouds. And yeah, they just fade out, and down we go. This planet's got its very unique vibe. I don't know, it almost reminds me of a sort of meat planet. It's all kind of squishy and or very, very slimy organic, all these sort of growths and sort of polyps and all this sort of swampy organic soup of stuff. All these, it's all like growths and things. Let's have a little fly over there. And, you know, it's particularly cool, this planet. Look, flying stuff here. A bit like Pandora, actually. You know, it's not just the landscape terrain surface. There's a lot of stuff growing upwards out of it, you know. So it's almost, it gives an extra dimension to it. You know, all this vertical detail that you've got. And these are really cool formations, aren't they? I mean, they're I don't know what they're doing with some weird gravity stuff with these little blobbies, but yeah, very, very interesting. And you know, you look at the textures on the ground there, you're getting the broad, like erosional shapes. And then as we go down, you'll see them pop a bit, but you know, look, the veg draws in, then the textures kind of get a bit more granular as you get down at the ground level. You get your normal maps coming in and your blends, but you know, it's plenty of veg here. It's, you know, it's drawing a lot of stuff. And as I say, I don't think this is doing anything different than the Switch 1 is doing. You know, Switch 2 here. So all the draw distances and everything, all the same. I would imagine that we're probably just getting a bit of a smoother experience, I suppose. It's a pity that they haven't done any Switch 2 enhancements, because that would be quite nice. But I love flying around at the transition between the night side to the left. We've got the sun side over there, and sort of straddling that line where you get all these wonderful lighting effects. You know, even back then, Snowdrop Engine working wonders with lighting, and no ray tracing, none of that sort of stuff. It just, you know, very traditional techniques. This is kind of pre-RT generally. You know, before it became almost ubiquitous. Check that thing out. Yeah, really fascinating. Right, so we will go to the next planet. Fly up there. Oh, before we do that though, actually, you know, there's a lot of trickery, as I said, about these planets. They're quite small, and the haze is probably doing most of the work in hiding the curvature. But there's also different tricks. I mean, Ubisoft have never really said that they're doing these things, but there's various tricks that you can employ to hide things like that. And like probably one of the more effective ones is that you can render the horizon slightly squashed in the vertical, and even scaled as well. You know, you could scale like big formations like all this vegetation and stuff. The further toward the horizon, you know, you can scale it more and more. In fact, RDR2 did that with trees, log trees in the distance. They get scaled more so that it gives an apparent increased sense of distance. You know, it's a really effective trick, that. And you know, I don't know whether they're using it here, but they could well be. But that vertical squashing at the horizon, it would tend to ease out the curvature of the relatively small planets. So I wouldn't be surprised whether they were using tricks like that, which, you know, really help to sell that size aspect. And they do feel really large, these planets. You know, I mean, to me, they feel same size as No Man's Sky's planets, which are a lot bigger. But I think, you know, it's because of all that trickery, and because there's probably more stuff on these planets. You know, they're more interesting. There's not vast expanses of just like procedural weirdness, odd, janky kind of generation of stuff. On here, out in space, you know, it's not all just empty stuff. There's interesting things like green blobs. There's asteroid fields and, you know, all sorts of cool stuff. And space isn't just a black backdrop either. Lots of interesting sort of shapes and things. There's resources we can get there too. But let's just pop into Crimson Moon. Crimson Moon. I don't really sort of spend any time there, because as I said, it's just this sort of racing thing, and it's fun if you want to sort of play with that. Yeah, but let's speed up a bit. Vylus over there, that's where we've just come from. But I want to get round to the day side. Okay, drop in here and drive from night to day. Crimson Moon. So again, a really interesting landscape, all its own unique. So you can see it's, you know, there's a lot of kind of graininess to that haze there. Sacrifices of the tech, aren't there? Really? I mean, that'll be better on the PC version of the game, and it came out on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and then the PC release. So I must admit, I've not played those versions. I only played it on the Switch because I just thought it was great to have a game like this that was portable. You know? And I've just recently been doing a bit of rail travel, and I had it installed and I picked it back up again, and I've forgotten how great a game it was, you know, and how impressive it is, standing the test of time. So it's been you know, a real pleasure to pick it back up again and appreciate it all anew. But yeah, cool. This, I mean, look at the atmosphere here. You know, it's hazy. It's gritty, isn't it? There's a lot of dust getting kicked up, and you know, it's chunky. And again, so different from the other planets that we've got. Ooh. There we go. That's one of the race circuit things there. Let's head to Tundria. And if I remember rightly, this is a bit of a sort of frozen tundra ice planet type thing. Let's see if I remember rightly, eh? Exiting hyperspace. There we go. Look at that. Okay, we've arrived at Hoth. Let's go down, see if we can find any Wampus. And yes, that person is saying something. They're your other team members. We can swap out ships and characters, by the way. I'm staying with Starfox and his R-Wing in honor of the recent release of the new Starfox thing. Even though I've not played it, I'm not that interested in it, to be honest. I played the demo and I was like, yeah, Starfox, isn't it? Yeah, Starfox. And my opinion hasn't changed from back when I played it, you know? I mean, I played it and enjoyed it at the time when it came out. But as with many games of you know, the past, I played and enjoyed them mainly because you know, that was all we could get, really. And it was unrealistic to expect anything more than your Starfox kind of on rails, flying into the screen, shooting baddies, doing this. Whereas nowadays, we don't have to, you know, limit ourselves to that sort of stuff now. We can fly to planets, different planets, and leave them and come back and fly through ice canyons and stuff like this. You know, so this is why I think this is a much better Starfox game than Starfox ever was, or ever could be, to be honest. Hey, there we go, banging, bang. Sorry, Fox McCloud. And also, to be honest, the whole Starfox animal fox frog in spaceships thing just didn't do it for me. I mean, to be honest, I think it's pretty ridiculous, doesn't it? Like, Froggy in spaceship. Hello, Froggy Wingman. Come and help me. I'm a fox. So, you know, it's just not for me. I know many people like it, and, you know, great. I celebrate that, but for me, just not my thing. Hello, Mr. Ticker. You are a ice crabby land beast. I could scan it if I want. Should we scan it? Let's scan it. Come on. Scan. Scanning. Simple scanning technique. You just sort of fill in the green blobs as you spin around it. I suppose you're 3D scanning it, aren't you, really? And I've previously scanned it anyway, haven't I, of course? Because I've been here many times. And let's just pop the map on. How's my progress? Yeah, 92% really. It looks like I've probably got an extractor, yeah, to do in there. But I pretty much cleared all the planet. And as you can see, lots there. All these little blobs are my allies and my ally installations and stuff. Yeah, pretty good. Right, so oh, don't want to do that. Let's go. Judge. He's another one of our characters. And here we go. Look, there's like a pretty cool looking sort of city outpost thing that you know, you liberate these things. But nice looking, you know, grungy, very well made. They, you know, look really good. And you can go in and, you know, it's all very outpost sort of clinging to the rock. and you know, just sort of surviving on the planets and being a sort of exploratory installation that looks like it's been there a long time, hasn't it? And bandits took it over, and then we rescued it, and you know, there's some resources to be had there. Some electron there, just sucking up some electron. Hello, allies, you okay? Yep, there are friends there. So let's be off with us into the blue. Go. So let's watch that transition as we go higher and higher. We hit the clouds, we get that kind of heat, and it's only when you look away from the planet that you lose that view of the terrain, that it then, you know, it's unloading all of that higher res stuff. We're into space, and then, you know, we see it from on high up here. Really efficient data handling. It's a really impressive system. So we've got 2 more to do. These are like the harder sort of planets here, which I've done the least on. I don't know, I've just been enjoying clearing the other planets, and I was in no rush to finish the quest really. I was just really liking it, and so much variety that, you know, I like to savor my games. I don't want to rush through them. So let's head down. Go, and you can see up in the top right, it's got like main mission objective there. You know, I'm kind of building these towers, like a kind of communications arrays to sort of, you know, battle the baddies. And look at that, we've come right down in the middle of this sort of, wow, kind of, oh, an ender spawn field. That's awesome. Let's check the map. So we're right in a massive like storm of these extractors and stuff. So, you know, I've done very little on this planet, 7%. So, you know, it's kind of, when you start these planets, they're a bit of a mess. And it's your job to, you know, slowly claw it back and clear it off. Look at that, it's like these big cinder towers. Right, let's head off into the sky. And we'll set target for, get this, Necrom, 0% done. 0%, so very little stuff done on that one. I need to get on the job, don't I, and sort that planet out. So let's just clear the horizon of that one. There we go. All right, let's head down. All unique cloud features. Again, down into one of these extractor kind of smoke clouds. Oh, look at this here. It looks like a crashed spaceship. Again, very, very No Man's Sky, isn't it, really? So, again, a bit of a sort of mushroomy vibe here, isn't there? Ah, yeah. Whoa. So, let's head up to space again. And then I fancy finishing on kind of nice, pleasant planet. So, I want to go to, where is it now? What am I doing? Kirite. Arrakis. Here we go. Oh, let's head for that little bit there. There's a sort of interesting mix of desert and red earth there, so I'm curious to set us down there. Oh, there we go. Woo. So, an interesting look at this game. I think that I feel should have done better than it did. I think it was well ahead of its time. And yeah, so I would highly recommend it. I think it holds up very well. But before I go, I would like to thank my channel members. There you all are. Yeah, really appreciate you sticking around and supporting the channel. It makes a real big difference because I generally don't get any games for free. I think the only game I've got for free so far is Subnautica 2's early access. Thank you, Unknown Worlds. But yeah, that's the only one. So none of these games companies are giving me free games. So maybe that'll change with time. But for now, you know, it all comes out of pocket, and that's where you channel members, yeah, your support really counts and matters. And you know, I really appreciate it. So thank you for that. So I shall leave it there. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Take it easy. Bye.